Rain hammered the dusty earth as a young woman ran barefoot through the narrow village path, her white wrapper torn and soaked in red mud. Behind her, voices shouted, curses echoing through the storm. Amara didn't stop. She clutched a small calabash to her chest, the last memory of her late mother, and kept running until her lungs burned. She stumbled into a small shed by the roadside, shivering. Thunder cracked across the sky as her stepmother's angry voice echoed behind her. Amara, you will regret this. No woman in this house rejects wealth. Amara pressed her back against the wall, eyes wide. I'd rather be poor than marry a man I don't love, she whispered to herself. Moments later, her stepmother appeared, umbrella in hand, gold bangles jingling. So you think you can disgrace me, Em? The chief's son came to ask for your hand and you said no? Do you know what you've done? Amara's voice trembled. He's older than my father. I can't. A sharp slap cut her words. Silence! You are nothing! I took you in when your useless father died. You will do as I say. Amara turned her face away, tears blending with the rain. That night, the stepmother sat in her room, fuming. Her daughter, Uju, leaned against the doorway. Mama, forget her! Let her suffer! Who will marry her now? The older woman smiled cruelly. Oh, someone will! If she won't marry the rich, she will marry shame. The next morning, word spread like wildfire. Amara was to marry the village beggar. The announcement caused laughter in the market. The beggar? One woman asked, dropping her basket. You mean the man who sleeps under the palm tree by the stream? Yes, another chuckled. They say he eats leftover yam peels. No one knew the truth, that the beggar was no ordinary man. His name was Ikenna. To the world, he was a wanderer with torn clothes and a calm voice. But in secret, he was Prince Ikenna of Udenma, a royal blood who had left the palace to live among the poor, searching for something money could not buy, a heart that loved without gold. That evening, he sat by the stream, watching the water flow. Children played around him, laughing. One of them, a boy of 8, handed him a piece of roasted corn. Uncle, are you hungry? Ikenna smiled softly. Always. He broke the corn in half and gave the boy a piece. Never stop sharing, my child. The hand that gives never stays empty. His eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen both riches and ruin. When the village chief's messenger arrived, Ikenna didn't look surprised. The widow Ngozi's daughter is to marry you tomorrow, the messenger said mockingly. Be grateful. At least now you'll eat real food for once. Ikenna only smiled. If it is her wish, I will come. But in his heart, he wondered, why would they force her to marry me? The next morning, drums beat across the square. Villagers gathered in excitement, whispering, laughing, pointing. The stepmother, adorned in bright wrappers and fake jewellery, stood proudly as Amara was dragged forward in a faded white gown. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Let the marriage begin, the priest announced. Amara looked up and froze. The man standing before her wasn't what she'd expected. He was dressed in rags, yes, but his eyes carried a calm she'd never seen before. When he spoke, his voice was deep, gentle. I know this marriage isn't your choice, he said quietly, so only she could hear. But I promise I will never hurt you. Amara blinked, taken aback. For a moment she saw kindness where she expected mockery. The villagers laughed loudly as the vows were exchanged. Some threw sand, others jeered. A princess and her beggar, one man shouted. May your hut be full of rats! Amara stood trembling, her heart breaking. Ikenna turned to the crowd. Even a rose can bloom in ashes, he said, voice steady. And sometimes the poor man you despise may be richer than all of you. The laughter quieted for a brief second. No one knew how to respond. After the ceremony, Amara's stepmother shoved her toward Ikenna. Take your bride, beggar! Feed her if you can! As they walked away, Amara didn't say a word. Her tears had run dry. The villagers watched, whispering. Children followed for a while, throwing pebbles until the forest path swallowed them. Their new home was a tiny hut made of mud and thatch. Inside there was nothing but a mat and a clay pot. Amara sank to the floor. So this is my punishment, she murmured. Ikenna placed a small bundle of dry wood in the corner. You can rest, I'll make fire. She turned, surprised. You don't have to, he smiled faintly. We share the same roof now. Kindness shouldn't depend on wealth. For the first time her heart softened just a little. Days passed. Amara rose early to fetch water, but Ikenna often helped, carrying the heavy calabash without complaint. When she asked why, he said, A man's strength is not for pride, it is for service. One evening she found him sitting outside, carving something from wood. It was a small bird. "You carve?" she asked, curious. "I do what keeps my mind at peace," he replied. "Beauty should live even in poverty." Amara took the wooden bird, running her fingers over it. "You speak like someone who has lived another life." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "Perhaps I have." That night, as she lay on the mat, she whispered, "Maybe my punishment isn't as cruel as I thought." Outside, Ikenna sat beneath the stars, his mind far away in a palace where his name was still whispered, where guards searched for their missing prince. But here, in the quiet of the forest, he had found something the palace never gave him. Peace. The moon was high when Amara woke to the sound of coughing. She turned and saw Ikenna hunched near the doorway, shivering. His shirt was drenched from the rain that had fallen earlier. "You're soaked," she whispered, hurrying to him. "Why didn't you wake me?" He smiled weakly. "Old habits. When you've slept under trees, you learn to let the rain sing you to sleep." She frowned, fetching the old cloth she used as a towel. "You'll fall ill. Sit down." He hesitated, but obeyed. As she dabbed his forehead, her hand trembled slightly. Their eyes met, his gaze deep and unreadable, hers filled with confusion she couldn't name. "Thank you," he murmured. "Don't thank me," she said quickly. "If you die, they'll say I killed you." He chuckled softly. "Then I must live, for your reputation." Her lips twitched despite herself. For the first time, laughter warmed the cold room. The next morning, Amara went to the stream. Whispers followed her. Women washing clothes nearby fell silent as she approached. One finally spoke, her tone sharp. "So, Amara the princess now carries water for her beggar husband." Amara ignored them, kneeling by the stream. Another voice laughed. "Tell us, sister, does he feed you with crumbs or dreams?" Amara's eyes burned, but she said nothing. She filled her calabash and stood tall. "At least my husband works for what he eats," she said quietly. "Not everyone married gold and lost peace." The women fell silent. When she returned, Ikenna was tending a small fire. He looked up. "They spoke again, didn't they?" She forced a smile. "Does it matter?" He studied her face. "It matters if it hurts you." She shrugged. "Words can't kill." He nodded slowly. "No, but they can build or break a soul. I've seen kingdoms crumble because of them." The way he said kingdoms made her pause. "You speak like a man who's seen the world." He looked away. "Maybe I have." That evening, as they ate roasted yam, Amara found herself stealing glances at him. The way he handled things, gentle but confident, wasn't how beggars behaved. His speech, his calm, even the way he listened when she spoke, it all felt royal. One night, while Ikenna slept, she sat watching him. His features looked different in the dim firelight. Strong, noble, and strangely familiar, like someone she'd seen in one of the palace processions years ago. Could it be? No, impossible. Still, a seed of suspicion began to grow. A week later, her stepmother appeared at their hut wearing new clothes and a false smile. "Amara, my child," she began sweetly. "I came to check on you. How is your husband?" Amara's guard rose instantly. "Why do you care?" the woman sighed. "I only wanted to see how you're coping. People are talking." "Let them," Amara said coldly. "At least I have peace." Her stepmother's eyes narrowed. "Peace? With a beggar? You think you found happiness in this hut. Look around you. Dirt, flies, poverty. You belong in shame." Before Amara could respond, Ikenna stepped out of the hut. His tone was calm but firm. "Madam, my home may be small, but it is clean, and my wife lacks nothing that peace can't provide." The woman scoffed. "Who are you to speak to me? A man who begs for food?" He smiled faintly. "A man who knows that riches without character are poverty." Her face twisted. "You'll regret speaking to me like that." She stormed off, muttering curses. Amara turned to him, startled. "You shouldn't have." "I know," he interrupted gently, "but some people mistake silence for weakness." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Her heart pounded with mixed emotions, fear, admiration, curiosity. Who was this man? 2 days later, she decided to follow him. Before dawn, he left the hut, thinking she was asleep. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and trailed quietly behind. He walked deep into the forest toward an abandoned shrine, but it wasn't abandoned. 2 men knelt before him. "Your Highness," one said softly, "the elders are restless. The council demands your return." Amara froze. "Your Highness?" Ikenna raised his hand. "Tell them patience. The one I seek is here. I will return when the time is right." Yes, my prince. Amara's heart raced. Prince, her husband? The beggar? She stumbled backward, stepping on a twig. The sound cracked through the air. The men looked up. Ikenna turned sharply. Their eyes met. Amara? She trembled. You're a prince? The guards disappeared silently into the trees. Ikenna sighed, walking toward her. You weren't meant to know. Not yet. She backed away. All this time, you lied to me? I hid the truth, he said softly, not to deceive you, but to see if love still exists without gold. She shook her head, tears welling. So this was all a test? No, he said, stepping closer. It became more than that. I didn't expect to care for you, but I do. She looked at him, torn between anger and disbelief. You let me suffer humiliation. You watched them mock me. His eyes glistened. And I saw your strength, your kindness when you had no reason to be kind. Amara, I had to know if there was still truth in the world I would one day rule. She turned away. You could have told me. He sighed. Would you have believed me? Silence hung heavy between them. The forest whispered around them, and somewhere in the distance, a night bird cried. Finally, Amara whispered, I don't know who you are anymore. He reached out, but she stepped back. Don't, she said. I need time. She ran back toward the hut, leaving him alone under the moonlight, his crown still hidden beneath his rags. Later that night, he sat before the dying fire, staring at the small wooden bird he'd carved for her. He whispered to himself, perhaps love and truth cannot live in the same skin. Outside, Amara cried silently, her heart torn between betrayal and the strange warmth she still felt for him. The next morning, she was gone. The morning sun rose over the village, spreading gold across the roofs, but inside the little hut, the fire was dead. Ikenna sat alone, his head in his hands. Her mat was empty. The pot she used to fetch water was gone. He searched the stream, the market, even the fields, but Amara was nowhere. Whispers followed him everywhere. The beggar's wife has run away, someone said, smirking. Maybe she finally came to her senses, another replied. He ignored them. His calm face betrayed no emotion, but inside him was a storm. By noon he found her sitting by her mother's old grave at the edge of the forest. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Amara, he said quietly. She didn't turn. You shouldn't have followed me. I had to. She stood, facing him. Why didn't you tell me the truth? You watched me beg for food, walk barefoot through mud, endure shame, and you said nothing. He swallowed hard. Because truth is only seen when gold is gone. I wanted you to see me, not the crown. Tears ran down her cheeks. And what did you see in me, your highness? He stepped closer. I saw courage, a heart that bends but never breaks, a woman who still helps even when the world mocks her. She turned away, wiping her tears. You think pretty words can heal humiliation? No, he said softly. Only love can. Her breath caught. Love? He nodded. Yes, I love you, Amara. Silence. Wind rustled the tall grass between them. Finally, she whispered, I don't know if I can believe anything you say anymore. He lowered his gaze. Then let my actions speak. I'll wait, for however long it takes. He walked away, leaving her standing by the grave, torn between anger and something much deeper she couldn't name. Days turned to weeks. The village talked. The stepmother bragged at the market. I told her poverty would teach her lesson. Now she's crawling back to me. Wait and see. She'll beg to return home. Her daughter Uju laughed. And the beggar? Let him rot in his hut, the woman said. Once I secure the chief's favour, we'll chase him out. But fate was already moving. One afternoon, a convoy of black horses thundered into the village. Men dressed in royal colours dismounted. Their swords glinted in the sun. Villagers ran to hide. The head guard shouted, By the order of His Majesty, King Arinzi of Udenma, we seek the missing Prince Ikenna. Gasps filled the air. The market fell silent. The prince? Someone whispered. Here? The guards spread out. It didn't take long before one spotted the old hut by the forest. Inside, Ikenna stood calmly as they entered and knelt. Your Highness, the captain said, bowing. The king is ill. The council demands your return. The villagers who had followed the guards in curiosity froze in shock. The beggar is a prince? A woman cried. Chiniki! Another fell to her knees. Have mercy on us, my lord! Ikenna looked around at their faces, the same faces that once mocked him. There was no pride in his eyes, only sorrow. I will return, he said quietly, but not alone. He turned to one of the guards. Find Amara? Yes, my prince. The news spread like fire. Within hours it reached the stepmother's house. She nearly choked on her food. "What did you say?" she asked the messenger. "I said the beggar is a prince, madam. The royal guards came for him." She dropped her spoon, trembling. "A prince?" Uju gasped. "Does that mean Amara is?" The woman shot up. "No, not her! I won't let that witch rise above me!" She rushed out, dragging her wrapper, and headed straight to the forest. Amara was at the grave again when she saw her stepmother approaching, breathless. "You!" the woman hissed. "So this was your plan, to deceive us all? To marry a prince and make me look like a fool?" Amara blinked, stunned. "What are you talking about? Don't play innocent," she spat. "You knew who he was." "I didn't," Amara said quietly. "Not until recently." Her stepmother scoffed. "Lies! You always pretended to be pure, but you're a snake like your mother." Amara's eyes hardened. "Do not speak of my mother," the older woman sneered. "You think being the prince's wife makes you better than me? He will never keep you. You are dirt to them." Before Amara could answer, the sound of hooves filled the air. Guards appeared again, parting the tall grass. "Lady Amara," one of them said respectfully, "His Highness requests your presence." Her stepmother's jaw dropped. Amara hesitated. "Tell him I'm not ready." The guard bowed. "He insists, my lady, please." Amara glanced at her stepmother, then at the royal guards. "Fine." As they rode back, the village gathered. People bowed as the horses passed. The same women who had mocked her now whispered blessings. At the hut, Ikenna stood dressed in a simple royal tunic. He looked every bit the prince he truly was, yet his eyes were the same, calm, gentle, searching only for her. When she dismounted, he stepped forward. "You came," she nodded. "They didn't give me much choice." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes destiny doesn't ask permission." She folded her arms. "So what now? You return to your kingdom, and I go back to being the poor fool who married a mystery?" "No," he said softly. "You return as my wife." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amara blinked. "You're what?" "My wife," he repeated, loud enough for all to hear. "The one chosen not by tradition or riches, but by heart." Her stepmother fell to her knees, trembling. "Your Highness, forgive me! I didn't know He raised a hand. "Rise, woman. You taught me something valuable, that gold can blind more than poverty ever could." She couldn't meet his gaze. Amara stood frozen, overwhelmed. "Ikenna, you don't have to do this." He stepped closer, his voice steady. "I'm not doing this out of duty. I'm doing this because I meant every word. I love you." Her lips parted, tears spilling down her cheeks. "After everything?" "Yes," he whispered. "After everything." The guards bowed deeply. "Your Highness, the carriage awaits." He turned to Amara. "Will you come with me to the palace?" She hesitated, looking at the faces around her, the same villagers who had scorned her, the stepmother who had cursed her, the man who had changed her world. She took a deep breath. "Yes." The crowd erupted in cheers and shock as he took her hand. Together they walked toward the carriage. But as the horses began to move, Amara looked back one last time at the village that had once been her prison. Her eyes met her stepmother's, a mixture of triumph and pity passing silently between them. The road ahead shimmered with sunlight. For the first time in her life, Amara felt the weight of her past lifting. She didn't know what awaited her at the palace, but she knew one thing for sure: the beggar she married had become her destiny. The royal palace rose like a mountain of marble and gold, its towers kissing the clouds. Amara had never seen such splendor. The great gates opened with a deep metallic groan, and a dozen palace guards saluted as their horses rode through. She sat quietly beside Ikenna, her heart pounding. People lined the path, nobles in silk robes, servants kneeling, children waving palm leaves. They all whispered, "That's her? The beggar's wife? She doesn't look like a princess." Their words cut through her like blades, but she lifted her chin and stared straight ahead. Inside the palace courtyard, an old man waited, tall, frail but proud. His robes were white as dawn and his crown shimmered under the sun. "My father," Ikenna said, dismounting quickly. He went down on one knee. "I've returned." King Arinze smiled weakly. "My son, the kingdom has missed you." His eyes drifted to Amara. "And this is your wife?" Ikenna took her hand. "Yes, father," Amara. The king's gaze lingered on her. The simple village wrapper she still wore, the calluses on her palms, the uncertainty in her eyes. "You've brought me surprise, Ikenna," he said. "But perhaps also the lesson I failed to teach you." He looked at her again. "You're welcome, child. May your heart be as steady as your courage." Amara bowed deeply. "Thank you, your majesty." The king nodded to a servant. "Prepare the queen's chambers for her." Whispers erupted immediately among the courtiers. "The queen's chambers? Impossible! She's not royal blood!" But Ikenna ignored them. He helped her off the carriage, guiding her gently toward the palace steps. That night, the royal court gathered for a private dinner. Candles flickered across gold plates and crystal goblets. The sound of drums echoed faintly through the halls. At the long table, Ikenna sat beside Amara. Across from them, the nobles stared in cold silence. One woman leaned close to another, whispering, "Look at her hands, she eats like a farmer." "I heard she can't even read," another replied. Amara lowered her eyes. The food on her plate blurred through her tears. Ikenna saw it. He set his spoon down, his tone sharp. "If there is anyone here who values blood over honor, speak now, and I shall show you who truly serves the kingdom." The room froze. No one spoke. The king raised his hand gently. "Enough, my son. Nobility isn't measured by silence, but by grace." He turned to Amara. "You will learn, child, and in learning you will prove them wrong." Amara nodded weakly. "I will try, your majesty." Later that night, she stood alone on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. The wind was cool, carrying the faint sound of drums from the village below. "I don't belong here," she whispered. "You do," came Ikenna's voice behind her. She turned. "They all look at me like I'm dirt." "They did the same to me when I lived among them," he said softly. "They saw a beggar, but they never saw my purpose. Don't let their eyes decide your worth." Her voice cracked. "What if I fail?" He stepped closer. "Then fail beautifully, fail trying. That's all I ask." She smiled faintly. "You sound like a poet," he laughed softly. "Maybe love makes fools of princes." She looked away, but her heart beat faster. The next morning, palace bells rang. A royal advisor approached her. "The Queen Mother requests your presence." Amara followed him through corridors lined with tapestries and ivory pillars until they reached a dim chamber. Inside sat the Queen Mother, regal, sharp-eyed, with silver hair wrapped in velvet. "So," the old woman said, her voice calm but cold, "you're the girl my grandson married." Amara bowed. "Yes, your majesty." The Queen Mother studied her. "You've caused quite a stir. Marrying a beggar was scandal enough, but for him to be my grandson, the heir—" Amara swallowed hard. "I didn't know who he was. Perhaps. But you know who he is now, and that means the eyes of the kingdom are on you." She stood slowly, circling Amara like a hawk. "Tell me, child, can you bear that weight? The judgment, the envy, the loneliness?" Amara lifted her head. "I've borne worse." The Queen Mother paused. "Worse? Poverty," Amara said. "Hunger, humiliation, and I'm still standing." For a moment, the old woman's gaze softened, then she turned away. "We shall see," she motioned to a servant. "Teach her our customs, our speech, our grace. She must be ready before the coronation." "Yes, your majesty." Days became weeks. Amara learned to walk in royal cloth, to bow, to greet nobles in the old tongue. Yet still the whispers never ceased. "She's just a village girl. She doesn't deserve the throne. She'll ruin the royal bloodline." At night, she would cry quietly, clutching her mother's old necklace. One evening, as she passed the courtyard, she overheard two guards talking. "I heard the chiefs want the prince to marry Princess Nenna from the east. They say the king might force it." Her breath caught. That night, she confronted Ikenna. "Is it true? They want you to remarry?" He sighed. "Some of the elders are pressuring my father. They think marrying into another royal family will strengthen alliances." Her voice trembled. "And what do you think?" He took her hand. "I think love is stronger than alliances." She looked away. "But love doesn't always win." He smiled faintly. "In this kingdom it will." Before she could respond, a servant rushed in. "Your Highness! The king, he has collapsed!" They ran through the halls to the royal chamber. The king lay on his bed, weak and pale. The Queen Mother knelt beside him, holding his hand. "Ikenna," the king whispered, "the crown must be yours now." "Father, please." "There is no time," the king said softly. "But before the coronation there must be peace among the council. They will test you. They will test her." His gaze fell on Amara. "Be strong, child. The kingdom needs both your hearts." Then his hand fell still. The silence was deafening. The Queen Mother's cry broke it. Deep, raw, ancient. Amara held Ikenna's trembling hand. Tears streamed down both their faces. Outside, the bells of morning began to toll. As the sound spread through the land, people gathered in the palace courtyard. The beggar prince was now king, and the poor girl he married was about to face the greatest trial of her life. 3 nights passed after the king's burial. The air in the palace hung heavy with grief and whispers. Drums of mourning echoed through the valley, but beneath the sorrow something darker stirred, ambition. In the council chamber, 12 elders sat in a circle of stone. Their faces were carved by years of politics and pride. The eldest, Chief Obiora, struck his staff against the floor. "We cannot let this stand," he said. "A village girl as queen, it disgraces the throne." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. "She's unfit," another chief said. "Let the prince, now king, marry Princess Nenna. That is how peace is kept." But a younger chief spoke up. "And if he refuses? Then we force him to choose between crown and wife," Obiora said coldly. That night a messenger slipped a note under Amara's door. The wax seal bore the royal crest. She opened it with trembling fingers. "Tomorrow the council will test your worth before the coronation. Refuse and you will be banished." Her heart sank. She stared at the candlelight flickering over the paper. "They want me to fail," she whispered. Ikenna entered quietly. "What's wrong?" She showed him the note. His jaw tightened. "They have no right." "They do," she said softly. "This is their kingdom too." He took her face in his hands. "Amara, you don't need to prove anything to them." "I do," she said. "Not for me, for us. For every girl they've ever called unworthy." The next morning, the great hall was filled. Nobles, guards, villagers, even the Queen Mother sat watching. Drums beat slowly, echoing like thunder in her chest. Chief Obiora rose. "Amara, wife of the late prince, now widow of our king-to-be, you claim the right to sit beside him, but a queen must be wise, humble and brave. Show us if you are." He gestured toward 3 bowls on a table. "Each holds a test. Pass, and you may wear the crown. Fail, and you return to the dust from whence you came." Whispers surged through the crowd. Amara stepped forward. Her feet were bare against the cold stone floor. "The first bowl," Obiora said, "contains gold dust mixed with sand. Find the single diamond hidden inside, blindfolded." A servant tied the cloth over her eyes. She knelt, her hands trembling. The bowl was cold. The grains slipped between her fingers like time itself. Minutes passed. The crowd murmured, "She's guessing," but Amara ignored them. She remembered Ikenna's words, "Don't let their eyes decide your worth." She slowed her breathing, feeling each grain carefully. Her fingers brushed something sharp, not sand, not gold. She lifted it high. Gasps filled the room. The diamond gleamed in her hand. Obiora's expression faltered, but he hid it quickly. "Luck," he said. "Now the second test." 2 guards carried a bowl filled with clear water. "Tell us which side is pure and which is poisoned. You may not taste it." Amara hesitated, then stepped closer. She stared at the surface, calm, innocent. But something inside her whispered. She closed her eyes. "If I were poison, where would I hide?" She bent low, catching a faint metallic scent. Her instincts guided her. She pointed. "This side is poisoned." A guard tested it with a silver pin. The metal turned black. A collective gasp. Obiora's hands clenched his staff. "Fine, the final test." He motioned toward a small child brought forward. A girl no older than 5, trembling. "This child stole food from the palace kitchen. As future queen, what will you do with her?" The hall fell silent. All eyes on Amara. She looked at the child, dirty-faced and crying, clutching a piece of bread. Amara knelt beside her. "Are you hungry?" The girl nodded, terrified. "Then eat," Amara said softly. The child's eyes widened. "You're not angry?" Amara smiled gently. "No, because hunger drives the poor to steal, and kindness drives the strong to forgive." She stood, turning to the council. "If a queen cannot show mercy, then she is no better than the chains that bind her people." The hall erupted, some in outrage, others in awe. The Queen Mother slowly rose from her seat. "Enough," she said. Her voice was soft, but it silenced the room. "She has passed," Chief Obiora protested. "Your Majesty, this is sentiment, not judgment." The Queen Mother's eyes flashed. "Wisdom, courage, compassion. Those are the marks of a ruler. She has all 3. Let no one here forget who truly honors the throne." The crowd bowed their heads. Later that evening, the coronation began. The drums were no longer mournful, but alive, fierce, proud, unstoppable. The courtyard overflowed with villagers, nobles, and warriors. Ikenna stood at the altar, dressed in royal robes of emerald and gold. When Amara entered, the crowd gasped. She wore a gown woven from village fabric. the same pattern her mother once stitched by hand, now lined with silk. It was a symbol of who she was and who she'd become. As she approached, Ikenna's eyes filled with emotion. "Do you regret it?" she whispered when she reached him. "Regret finding the one person who saw me when I was invisible?" He smiled. "Never." The priest raised the crown high. "By the will of the ancestors and the heart of the people, I crown King Ikenna of Udenma and his queen, Amara, daughter of the earth." Cheers erupted, drums thundered, fireworks burst above the palace walls. But amid the noise, Ikenna leaned close and whispered, "You are my miracle." She smiled through tears, "And you are my home." As the crowd roared, the Queen Mother approached and placed her wrinkled hands on Amara's shoulders. "Rule with love, my child. The kingdom will follow." Amara bowed. "I will, Mother." That night, the people of Udenma danced till dawn. They sang songs of the beggar prince who found love among the poor, and the village girl who became queen by heart, not blood. At the palace balcony, Ikenna and Amara watched together as fireworks painted the sky. "She used to call me foolish," Amara said softly, said love couldn't feed an empty stomach. Ikenna smiled. "But it can feed a soul." She turned to him. "What happens now?" He wrapped his arm around her. "Now we rebuild. No one goes hungry again. No one is cast aside. This kingdom will remember the poor it once forgot." A servant stepped forward shyly. "Your Majesties, the people await your blessing." They both walked to the edge of the balcony. Below, thousands of faces glowed in the torchlight, rich and poor alike. Amara raised her hands. "My people," she called, her voice strong and clear. "May this kingdom rise where kindness is power and love is law. For every beggar, every orphan, every broken soul, your queen sees you." The crowd exploded in cheers. The sound rolled through the hills like thunder. Ikenna turned to her, eyes glistening. "You've given them hope," she smiled. "No, we have." The drums thundered again, and as the torches burned bright, a new dawn rose over Udenma, not of gold, but of grace. And somewhere deep inside, the poor girl who was forced to marry a beggar smiled at her reflection in the crown's shining metal, because now she finally knew what destiny felt like. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below about your favourite moment. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories like this one to life.